Imagine buying a brand new luxury four-seat vehicle with a massive gas tank, only to find out that the fundamental laws of physics dictate you can either fill all four seats or you can fill the gas tank.
Right, but you can almost never do both at the same time.
Exactly. Today, we're looking at a machine where calculating that exact trade-off is just, a routine part of firing up the engine.
It sounds like a design flaw on the surface, honestly, but it is actually the hallmark of an incredibly specialized, highly flexible piece of engineering.
We are taking a deep dive into the actual anatomy of a modern, high-performance workhorse. Our source material today is a really comprehensive product page and spec sheet from Textron Aviation.
Yeah, detailing their Cessna Turbo Skylane.
Right. And the mission for this deep dive is to kind of cut right through all the shiny marketing jargon. We want to decode what it really takes to push a single-engine machine up to 20,000 feet and figure out who on earth this highly specific aircraft is actually built for.
It's a very specific buyer, for sure.
Okay, let's unpack this, because looking at this sheet, it's pretty intense.
To really understand this machine, we have to look at it as a fascinating intersection. The Turbo Skylane sits right at the crossroads of rugged utilitarian mechanical engineering and highly advanced luxury digital technology.
And to see why they built it that way, we need to place it in the context of Cessna's massive aviation ecosystem. Looking at this product lineup is like walking onto a dealership lot that sells everything from 18-wheel freight trucks to golf carts.
It really is a huge spread.
Right. I mean, Textron's categories are vast. At the very top, you have their business jets, like the Citation Longitude carrying 12 passengers for 3,500 nautical miles, the Latitude, the Ascend, all the way down to the Citation M2 Gen 3.
Which are incredible machines, but very different from what we're looking at.
Definitely. Then you step over to the turboprops. You have the Grand Caravan EX and the Sky Courier Freighter, which hauls a massive 6,000-pound payload.
Yeah, and those are heavy-duty commercial-grade machines requiring specialized crews and, massive operational budgets.
Right. And then you finally get to the single-engine piston category. This is where our Turbo Skylane lives.
Tucked right in there.
Yeah. It sits next to the basic Cessna Skyhawk, which is a standard four-seat trainer with a 640 nautical mile range, and the standard non-Turbo Skylane with a 915 nautical mile range.
And the Turbo Skylane bumps that up slightly to a 971 nautical mile range, also seating 4.
But looking at this massive spread, a glaring question jumps out at you. If someone has the capital to invest in high-performance aviation, why are they buying a single-engine piston aircraft with a propeller? Why not just, jump up to an entry-level jet or a small turboprop?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the jump from a high-performance piston to a turbine engine like a jet or turboprop is not just a simple step up in speed, it is an entirely different universe of logistics.
How so? Is it just the cost?
Well, cost is huge, but it's more than that. Turbine aircraft often require a commercial pilot type rating, specialized recurrent training, incredibly high insurance premiums, and operating costs that just absolutely skyrocket.
Oh, so you can't just hop in and fly it on a standard private license.
Exactly. The Turbo Skylane is engineered to hit a very specific sweet spot. It bridges the gap between a basic recreational plane, which kind of lacks the power to fly through tough weather, and a complex turbine aircraft.
Makes sense.
It basically gives a dedicated owner-operator, like a private pilot flying themselves, serious payload and altitude capabilities without requiring them to hire a co-pilot or a corporate maintenance team.
That is a huge distinction.
Mm-hmm.
And the key to that serious capability is sitting right there in the name, right? Turbo.
Yeah, the turbocharger.
To understand this aircraft, we have to actually look under the cowling at the engine.
The power plant dictates everything else about the airframe's mission. It's the heart of the whole thing.
So the specs tell us this is powered by a Lycoming TIO 540 AK-1A turbocharged engine generating 235 horsepower.
Which, to a car person, doesn't sound like much.
Right. I mean, 235 horsepower might sound modest if you compare it to a modern sports car. But aircraft engines operate under entirely different constraints.
Very different.
The numbers that matter are the performance metrics. So we're looking at a maximum climb rate of 1,040 feet per minute, a maximum cruise speed of 165 knots true airspeed, and a service ceiling of 20,000 feet.
And the turbocharger is the whole game here when it comes to those numbers.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you send a normally aspirated engine 1 without a turbo up into the atmosphere, it acts like a hiker trying to climb a mountain.
Right, getting out of breath.
Exactly. The higher they go, the thinner the air gets. With less oxygen available to mix with the fuel, the engine literally suffocates. It loses horsepower the higher it climbs.
Yeah, a standard engine might lose a massive percentage of its power by the time it reaches just 10,000 feet.
But this turbocharged Lycoming acts like a mountain climber with a pressurized oxygen tank.
That's a great way to put it. Mechanically, it takes the hot, expanding exhaust gases that would normally just be, dumped out of the tailpipe.
Which is just wasted energy otherwise.
Yeah, completely wasted. It uses them to spin a turbine. And that turbine powers a compressor, which forcibly packs dense, pressurized air back into the engine's intake.
Oh, wow. So it's feeding itself.
Yeah. It essentially forces the engine to breathe sea-level air, maintaining its full 235 horsepower all the way up into the thin air at 20,000 feet.
That is wild.
And harnessing that power requires a highly specific delivery mechanism. The spec sheet notes this engine is paired with a Macaulay 3-blade aluminum constant speed propeller.
Which honestly is an aviation term that always sounds a bit contradictory to me.
How so?
Well, a constant speed propeller implies the plane only ever flies at one speed, which obviously isn't true.
Right. No, think of a constant speed propeller more like the automatic transmission in a car.
Okay.
In a basic airplane with a fixed propeller, pushing the throttle makes the propeller spin faster, like a car stuck in first gear. As you fly faster, the engine has to scream at incredibly high RPMs just to keep pulling the plane forward.
That sounds horribly inefficient.
It is. A constant speed propeller works completely differently. The pilot sets the desired engine RPM, and the propeller hub automatically twists the actual blades in midair.
Wait, it changes the shape of the propeller while it's spinning?
It changes their pitch, the angle of the blades. If you are climbing slowly, the blades take a shallow bite of the air. As you speed up and cruise, the blades twist to take a much deeper bite.
Oh, so the engine doesn't have to work harder, the blades just do more work per rotation.
Exactly. It keeps the engine running at its most efficient, constant RPM, regardless of how fast the aircraft is flying or what altitude it's at.
It's literally an aerodynamic transmission shifting gears in the air. That is fascinating. But that brings up the altitude itself.
The 20,000 feet.
Yeah. Why engineer an unpressurized piston aircraft to climb to 20,000 feet at over 1,000 feet per minute? I mean, you need to wear an oxygen mask up there. It seems aggressively high for a 4-seat prop plane.
Well, altitude is basically the ultimate currency for a pilot, because altitude buys you options.
Options like avoiding mountains.
Mountains, sure, but mainly weather. Most problematic weather-thick cloud layers carrying ice, turbulent storm cells, low visibility happens in the lower altitudes.
Okay.
If your aircraft physically cannot climb above 10,000 or 12,000 feet, you are forced into a position of weaving through those dangerous systems or just staying grounded.
Either of which are great options.
Right. But when an aircraft can comfortably push up to 20,000 feet, you punch right through the bad weather into the clear, smooth air above it. You are clearing the peaks of the Rocky Mountains with thousands of feet to spare, and you are flying high above the congested traffic patterns of lower airspace.
So it's about getting above the mess.
Exactly.
But what goes up has to come down. You can't cruise at 20,000 feet forever. The realities of gravity, weight, and short runways eventually come into play. Let's look at the physical footprint and, frankly, the math of this airframe.
The math gets very interesting here.
It really does. So the Turbo Skylane is 29 feet long with a 36-foot wingspan. It uses a high wing design, meaning the wing is mounted above the cabin, and it sits on a tricycle landing gear system.
And the short field performance on this gear is wild.
It's crazy. The takeoff distance over a standard 50-foot obstacle is 1,385 feet, but the actual ground roll, the distance the tires are actually on the pavement before the wings generate enough lift to fly, is only 775 feet.
Barely 2 football fields.
Right. And coming back down, the landing ground roll is just 590 feet. That is an incredibly short distance to stop a machine with a maximum takeoff weight of 3,100 pounds.
Stopping 3,100 pounds of metal and fuel in under 600 feet tells you a lot about the structural integrity of the airframe.
It has to be incredibly beefy.
It is. The brakes, the struts, the high wing, keeping the flaps safely away from kicked up rocks and debris. It's heavily engineered for the physical abuse of dropping into unpaved backcountry airstrips.
Which is where we hit that fascinating mathematical contradiction I mentioned at the very beginning of the deep dive.
The payload versus fuel problem.
Yes. The spec sheet boasts a useful load of 998 pounds. But literally 2 lines later, it lists a full fuel payload of 476 pounds.
It trips a lot of people up.
So I ran the numbers on this. The usable fuel volume in this aircraft is 87 gallons. and aviation fuel weighs about 6 pounds per gallon.
Give or take, yeah.
So topping off those tanks puts exactly 522 pounds of fuel in the wings.
What's fascinating here is how that impacts your human cargo.
Right. Because you take the 998-pound load limit, subtract the 522 pounds of fuel, and you're left with exactly 476 pounds.
Which is your full fuel payload.
So if we want to fly that maximum advertised range of 971 nautical miles, we have to fill the tanks. But that leaves us with 476 pounds for people and cargo.
Which is not a lot.
It's nothing. If you put 4 average adult men in this 4-seat plane, you are easily pushing 800 pounds before they even pack a bag. You literally cannot put 4 adults in the plane and fill up the gas tank at the same time.
No, you can't. And this is a harsh reality of aviation physics known as wing loading and structural limits. Every aircraft, from a Cessna to a Boeing 747, has an absolute maximum weight.
A point where it just won't fly.
Right, where the wings can no longer safely generate enough lift to overcome gravity, or where the landing gear would just shatter upon hitting the runway. So engineers build in a choice. You can fill the seats with a heavy payload, or you can fill the wings with fuel, but you trade one for the other.
It's basically a slider. You just move it back and forth depending on what you need to do that specific day.
Exactly. The Turbo Skylane gives the pilot a massive slider to play with. The mission profile might be flying 4 heavy adults and their hunting gear into a rugged dirt airstrip just 150 miles away.
So you barely put any fuel in.
Right, you only put in enough fuel for that short trip, maximizing your heavy payload. Or the mission might be just you and your partner flying 900 miles across the country. You fill the tanks to the brim and fly light. The design is all about maximizing that flexibility.
Okay, that makes sense. But wrestling a 100-pound machine into a 590-foot dirt strip out in the mountains, constantly running those intricate weight and balance calculations before every flight, it takes a massive physical and cognitive toll on a pilot.
It is an exhausting environment to operate in.
You cannot put a fatigued pilot in charge of a complex machine, which explains why the environment where the humans actually sit feels so radically different from the utilitarian airframe.
The interior of this aircraft is really where we start seeing the luxury technology take over.
Right, the cabin seats 4, measuring 49 inches high and 42 inches wide. But the materials are what really caught my attention.
It's not your standard flight school interior.
Not at all. The spec sheet highlights ergonomically designed seats wrapped in Luxor 2 and Alcantara.
Very premium material.
Yeah, and they feature a sleek, all-black instrument panel and upgraded flight deck armrests. The options list includes integrated air conditioning, USB power outlets at every single seat, and 6-pin powered headset plugs.
Which sounds a bit over the top at first.
That sounds absurd. You are taking a machine engineered to literally slam into the dirt and outfitting it like a high-end luxury sports car. It feels like putting Bentley leather into a rugged off-road Jeep.
It looks like pure aesthetics, I agree. But in aviation, comfort is actually a critical safety mechanism.
Really? Safety?
Absolutely. Pilot fatigue is one of the leading causes of human error in aviation accidents. Let's look at the air conditioning, for example. A glass-enclosed cockpit sitting on an asphalt ramp in July can easily exceed 110 degrees inside.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
It is. Sending a pilot into the sky dehydrated and suffering when heat exhaustion dramatically slows their reaction times. The AC isn't just a luxury, it's thermal regulation for the pilot's brain.
Okay, that I can understand. But what about the 6-pin powered headset plugs? Most people just use standard 2-prong plugs, right?
Yeah, most do, yeah. But those 6-pin plugs directly power active noise cancellation headsets using the aircraft's electrical system.
Oh, so you don't need batteries.
Right. Sitting behind a 235 horsepower engine, spinning a metal propeller at thousands of RPMs creates a deafening, vibrating roar. Active noise cancellation physically protects the pilot's hearing and prevents severe sensory fatigue.
Makes sense.
And by powering it directly from the panel, the pilot never has to worry about AA batteries dying mid-flight and suddenly being just overwhelmed by the noise.
And I guess the USB ports keep electronic flight bags and iPads charged.
Exactly, which prevents the stress of losing your digital navigation charts mid-flight. Every single luxury feature in that cabin is systematically designed to reduce physical and sensory drain.
So you remove the physical annoyances so the pilot can dedicate their full physiological capacity to managing the actual flight.
Precisely.
But physical fatigue is only half the battle. The cognitive fatigue of scanning instruments, talking to air traffic control, and navigating through weather at 165 knots is immense.
Which leads us to the digital brain of the aircraft, the avionics.
Yeah, the Cessna Turbo Skylane utilizes the Garmin G1000 NXI integrated flight deck. It represents a total shift from analog to digital.
It's night and day compared to older panels.
For you listening trying to visualize this, the cockpit is entirely glass. We aren't looking at rows of small ticking mechanical dials and vacuum-driven gyros anymore.
No, the panel is dominated by large, high-resolution digital screens.
Even the standby instrument, the Garmin GI275, which acts as the ultimate backup if the main screens fail, retains a classic round shape, but is actually a modern glass touchscreen.
Yeah, it's brilliant packaging.
But it's the alphabet soup of software capabilities in this source material that we really need to decode. It mentions things like ADS-B out and in, VFR and IFR charts with night mode, and the Garmin GFC 700 autopilot paired with ESP and USP.
Lots of acronyms. Let's pull those apart. Starting with ADS-B out and in because it fundamentally changed how pilots operate in busy airspace. ADS-B stands for Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast.
Based on the out and in description, it sounds almost like a mesh network. Like, is it basically Waze for airplanes where everyone is constantly sharing their location?
That is actually a highly accurate way to view it. Historically, pilots relied on ground-based radar sweeping the sky to tell them where traffic was.
Like the spinning dish at the airport.
Exactly. But ADS-B uses GPS. The aircraft is constantly broadcasting its exact, highly precise 3D position out to ground stations and directly to other aircraft.
The out part.
Right. And simultaneously, it receives the positions of everyone else, the in part. The glass screens in the cockpit display a real-time dynamic map of every aircraft around you, including their altitude and trajectory. It totally eliminates the blind spots of traditional radar.
And the pilot views this traffic overlaid on the VFR and IFR charts displayed right on the screens.
Which used to be giant paper maps unfolded in your lap.
Right. VFR being visual flight rules, the maps you use when you're flying by looking out the window, and IFR being instrument flight rules, the highly complex maps showing airways, altitudes, and procedures for flying blindly through the clouds.
Integrating those charts directly into the screens, especially with the night mode that reduces eye strain in the dark, massively reduces the cognitive load of cross-referencing paper maps.
So what does this all mean for the actual act of flying? Because the most significant cognitive safety nets seem to be the automated systems, ESP and USP.
Yeah, those are game changers.
The source defines ESP as electronic stability and protection, and USP as underspeed protection. With these systems, plus a highly advanced digital autopilot that can fly selectable visual approaches, does the plane essentially just fly itself at this point? Is the pilot just a passenger sitting in the front seat?
This raises an important question, but no, the human is absolutely still flying the aircraft. The best way to understand ESP and USP is to compare them to modern automotive safety features.
Like lane keep assist.
Exactly, like lane keep assist or automatic emergency braking. If you are driving on the highway and get distracted, drifting over the yellow line, your steering wheel might physically vibrate or gently push back to nudge you into the center of the lane.
Yeah, I have that in my car.
Garmin's ESP works exactly like that in the air.
So if a pilot gets disoriented in the clouds and accidentally lets the wing drop into a steep, dangerous bank,
the digital brain recognizes the dangerous attitude and applies physical corrective pressure to the control yoke. It physically nudges the pilot's hands back towards straight and level flight.
what about the USP?
USP, underspeed protection, monitors airspeed. If the nose pitches up too high and the aircraft slows down to the point where the wings might stall and lose lift, the system physically pushes the nose down to regain speed.
It just takes over.
Temporarily, yeah. These systems act as invisible safety nets. They don't replace the pilot's decision-making. They protect the pilot from the catastrophic results of momentary distraction or spatial disorientation.
It's basically a very attentive, invisible flight instructor sitting in the right seat, constantly monitoring the physics, ready to nudge the yoke if the human makes a fatal error.
That's exactly what it is. It allows the pilot to confidently manage the big picture strategy of the flight, trusting that the aircraft itself will intervene if the foundational physics are compromised.
Which brings our deep dive really full circle today. We set out to decode what this machine actually is, beyond the marketing terms on Textron's massive dealership lot.
And it turns out the Cessna Turbo Skylane is essentially a masterclass in calculated compromise.
Absolutely. You have that 235 horsepower turbocharged engine acting as the lungs, letting you climb above the weather to 20,000 feet. You have a heavily engineered airframe designed to slam onto a 600-foot dirt runway, which demands that you mathematically balance your fuel and payload on a knife's edge.
Every single flight.
Right. You have luxury Alcantara materials and active noise cancellation engineered specifically to fight human fatigue. And finally, you have a glass digital brain with invisible safety nets wrapping the entire operation in a layer of software protection.
It is the purposeful synthesis of mechanical brawn and digital intelligence, built for an owner-operator who demands the capability of a complex machine without the massive logistics of a corporate jet.
For you listening, it is just staggering to realize that this immense level of engineering and technology is packed into what is fundamentally a personal vehicle for everyday adventure.
It is a remarkable achievement, but it leaves a lingering question, I think, regarding the trajectory of aviation as a whole.
What do you mean?
Well, when a four-seat piston aircraft is equipped with digital stability algorithms, underspeed protection, and wireless navigation networks that, frankly, rival the commercial airliners of 20 years ago, what becomes of the human element?
Oh, the skill of the pilot.
Right. As these machines become increasingly proficient at overriding our errors and protecting us from the laws of physics, will the raw, manual, analog art of flying eventually be engineered entirely out of the cockpit?
That is a massive question about the balance between automation and human skill, and honestly, it extends way beyond just aviation. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Cessna Turbo Skylane. We will catch you on the next one.